Hello detectives, and welcome to my video for March. Now it's been ages since I filmed one of these videos, mainly because I have been getting my tonsils out, which has meant that I haven't wanted to go anywhere or do anything or talk to anyone. But as you can see, I am now back and well, and I am ready to do loads and loads of events over the rest of the spring. So just go check on my website or on my Twitter or Instagram for all the places I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Germany from the 1st to the 4th of April. That's going to be in Munich, and I'm going to be visiting a bookshop after school for anyone who isn't coming to see me at one of my school events. Then I'm going to be in Oxford to do an Oxford Literary Festival event on the 6th of April, that's a Saturday, and then the next day, the 7th, I'm going to be in Cambridge to do a Cambridge Literary Festival event. After that, I'm going to be in Chipping Norton Literary Festival on the 27th of April, and then I'm going to be at Barnes in London for the Barnes Children's Literary Festival on the 11th of May. So I've got loads of stuff coming up, and I've got a Dublin event that's about to be announced, so don't worry, Irish fans, I am coming to see you very soon. I've also been quite quiet because I've been working really hard on book 8, which is nearly done. I've been working on the copy edits, which is kind of the bit where you look at sentences instead of the whole plot of the book, and you make sure that every little bit is perfect and fitting together really nicely. And the moment I'm filming this, I have finished it, and I'm going to send it back to my editor tomorrow morning. So then it can be turned into proofs, it can be turned to something that looks like a real book. And as soon as that's been done, there'll only be a few months left before we actually print the book, which of course is going to be coming out on the 8th of August this year in the UK and Ireland. Now, I can't quite tell you what it is going to be called yet. I keep having to call it book 8. I know what it's called, and I'm going to be revealing the title and the cover, hopefully in the beginning of April. Again, keep watching this channel, keep watching my Instagram and Twitter for updates on that announcement, but it should be coming really soon. Of course, in March, I also published a book. The Case of the Missing Treasure, Daisy and Hazel's little mini mystery, is finally out in all stores and as an ebook online. So you used to be able to just buy this in Waterstones. This was a Waterstones exclusive, but now any store can have it. Indie bookstores and Blackwells and Foyles can have it, and you can buy it in any bookstore online as well. So if you haven't read The Case of the Missing Treasure yet, you should rush out and pick up your copy now. And now I'm going to round up my favourite 5 books that I have read over the last few months. This month was World Book Day, which is a special day each year when everyone in the UK and Ireland comes together to celebrate books and reading. And as part of that celebration, there are quite a few books that are published specially each year by some of the best known and best loved authors in the UK and Ireland. So kids can read them for only £1 or for free if they have a World Book Day voucher. And the first book I've chosen this month is one of those World Book Day books. It is Abby Elphinstone's Everdark. I chose this book because I love Abby's writing. I am becoming more and more a fan of her with every book she publishes, and this is a particularly exciting and interesting book because this is not just a standalone World Book Day book, it is the beginning of a totally new series from her called the Unmapped Chronicles. Everdark is about a girl called Smudge who lives in a magical land that is linked to our world called Crackledawn. And Crackledawn is really excited because they are waiting for the phoenix to arise. There's a new phoenix every 500 years, and it gives the magical lands of Crackledawn and Rumblestar and the other unmapped lands, it gives them the magic they need to keep on existing. So everyone is waiting up for this phoenix to appear. They are so excited, but the phoenix does not rise. What rises instead is a dark, evil force, and this force traps and sends everyone else in Crackledawn to sleep, apart from Smudge. Now, Smudge is a girl who thinks she's not worth much. She thinks that she's a bit slow, she can't really focus in lessons, but she realizes that her differences make her really important. They make her a hero, and she is the hero that Crackledawn needs. So she and a monkey called Bartholomew get a boat and they sail off after this dark presence who has just come into the world of Crackledawn. They sail off to see if they can stop it from killing their world and killing all of the other worlds of the unmapped world. It's a very quick read, it's not a very long book, so it's perfect if you just want to have a taste of Abby's writing, and I am pretty sure that if you pick this up you will not want to put it down and you will be really hungry to start reading Rumblestar, which is going to be coming in May this year. This book is perfect for anyone 8+ who loves adventure stories and who has sometimes secretly imagined themselves striking out and saving the day with their own particular talent. Maybe you're somebody who feels like you're special but nobody else knows it, and these books are great because all of Abby's heroes discovered their own specialness even if they don't really believe they're heroes to begin with, and that is what Smudge does in this book. The next book I've chosen isn't a fantasy novel, it is set in the real world, it's a historical novel, and it is How High the Moon by Keryn Parsons. Now this is the real cover of How High the Moon. I got to read a very special proof copy. I got to read it earlier than everybody else, and it is finally out this month in March. And it is a really lovely story. It is about a girl called Ella who lives in a small southern town in America in the 1940s. And she dreams of going to Boston to be with her mother. Her mother has left Ella's family to go work and to make her name as a singer. And Ella is so thrilled and excited when she's finally told by her mother she can come and visit her in Boston. And Ella is sure this is the beginning of a new phase in her life. She's going to go live with her mother for good in Boston. She's going to say goodbye to her small town life. But when Ella gets to Boston, she realizes that not everything is as it seems, and the rest of the book is all about Ella and how she works out where she really fits in the world. She works out who her family really are, who's really important to her, and she tries to work out where her father, a man who's been absent for her whole life, where her father might be. This book is set around a real story. Even though it's fiction, it's set around the true and extremely sad story of a boy called George Stinney, who is the youngest American ever to be put to death for murder. He was 14 when he was executed for murdering 2 little girls. Now, George was a black boy, and the 2 girls that he was accused of murdering were white, and it was an incredibly racially charged, very racist case, and he was basically caught and accused and murdered because he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and he happened to be black. That is the very sad, true story that Keryn Parsons is telling in this book, and that Keryn wants us to remember and think about. I hadn't heard of George before this, but I certainly have now, and it's something that is hard to think about but really important to remember. So this is sort of a mystery story, but it's a really unhappy mystery story. It's a mystery story that's never actually been solved because we don't really know who did commit those murders. Of course, the families of the little girls are sure it was George, but there was just no evidence at all. And the more you look into it, the more it's very obvious that it was the most horrendous, sad miscarriage of justice. But really, the heart of it is Ella and is her journey. And so Keryn managed to make a story that could be just really hopeless and really upsetting into something that's also very uplifting, very beautifully written, and very, very hopeful, because at the end of the book, Ella really does have a very positive feeling about who she is, where she comes from, and who her family are. And I would say this is perfect for anyone 8-9+, anyone who loves historical novels, who wants to find out more about history, the kind of history that I didn't get taught in my school in the UK. I think hopefully gets taught more in the US, but something that everybody should be learning more about. The next book I've chosen is an anthology. It's a book of short stories, and it is Proud, edited by Juno Dawson. I love this cover. It's one of my favourite covers for any book this year. It's so bright, it's so proud. It's something that you'll really see in any bookstore or in your local library. This is an anthology of short stories and poems by lots of different authors, some established authors like Tanya Byrne and David Levithan, and some new authors like Cynthia So and Karen Lawler. All of these authors are from the LGBTQ+ community. There are trans authors, there are non-binary authors, there are authors who are gay and bisexual and lesbian, so it's basically people from the whole spectrum of the rainbow, and they all have very different perspectives and very different stories to tell, and I think they're all fantastic. These are really beautifully written stories. They're funny, they're sad, they're thought-provoking. I love a good short story collection because there are so many different things to make you interested and keep your attention. I'm recommending these stories because I think they're great. I think it's a really well-written anthology and I really enjoyed reading them, but I'm also recommending them because this kind of anthology, this kind of book, is really, really important. It's important for kids who are LGBTQ+ to see themselves in stories, and that doesn't always happen in books that are published. It didn't happen when I was younger, because there was something that I've written about in my book Death in the Spotlight, in the afterword, something called Section 28. Section 28 meant that teachers and educators, anyone who was basically around children, they couldn't talk about or promote homosexuality, and that meant that books being published for children in the 80s and 90s didn't have any characters who weren't straight. There were no LGBTQ+ characters, and that meant that my generation really lost something. We just didn't hear about anyone who wasn't straight until we became an adult, and so we were left with a lot of confusing questions and we didn't really understand. It's still sadly true that a lot of adults don't believe that LGBTQ identities is something that is appropriate to talk to children about, which is ridiculous because children are LGBTQ and their parents and carers are LGBTQ. It makes no sense as an opinion, but it's an opinion that some people still do have, and so it's really important to have books like this, that we can counter those ridiculous opinions with the truth, which is that LGBTQ people are people like straight people. It's all the same. Everyone is just trying to get on and live their lives, and these stories are all about LGBTQ people doing just that, falling in love, getting jobs, dealing with their families, all the things that normal people do. It's a great book, and it's a book that I actually blurbed. If you look at the back of the book, you can see that there's my blurb to say how much I liked it. I don't blurb many books, so this was a very special book for me, and it's a book I think you're really going to enjoy. And I would say this is perfect for anyone who enjoys short stories and who is 11-12+. The next book I've chosen is also for YA, and it is Dumplin by Julie Murphy. Now, a lot of you will probably have seen the Netflix movie of Dumplin. It's lovely, it's really heartfelt, it's really funny. I just enjoyed it so much. I think it's one of the best Netflix films I have seen. And I hadn't actually read the book that it was based on, which is this book, until earlier this month, and I went on holiday and I took it with me and I just raced through it. I completely fell in love with it. Julie's writing is so warm, it's so funny. If you enjoyed the film, you'll love this book. I mean, pretty obviously, they're very similar. They're both about a girl called Willowdean who is fat and lives in Texas, and whose mother is a beauty queen, and who decides to join the beauty pageant in her city to basically annoy her mother. But it turns into something much more than that. It turns into being about Willowdean discovering her own self-confidence and realizing how valuable and worthwhile she is. But the book does something that the film can't quite do, which is it really gets into Willowdean's inner thoughts, how Willowdean is struggling with herself and feeling sort of unconfident and feeling unsure of herself, and I think that is really lovely. It's also just beautifully written. It's so engaging. It's really hard to put down. I read it really fast because I was just totally sucked into the world of the pageant and the world of Willowdean's town and her friends. It's definitely one of those books that when I had to put it down, I really missed it. I just wanted to go back and keep on reading. And when I finished the book, I wanted to keep going, wanted to know what was going to happen to Willowdean and her friends. So this is highly recommended if you love YA romance fiction, because it is a romance. It's partly about Willowdean falling in love with a boy at her work called Beau, who she thinks is way too beautiful for her, and slowly discovering that she's beautiful herself. Of course she is, and she deserves somebody who she finds really attractive, which is great. It's a really nice message. This is great for anyone who loves contemporary YA, who loves romance novels, who loves funny books. It's beautifully written. It's great. It's one of the best YAs I've read for quite a long time. So definitely, even if you've already seen the film and if you think you know the story, still pick this up. I would say this is good for about 13-14+. And finally, I always end my videos by choosing a classic book, a book that I used to love when I was younger. This month I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm not choosing a book that I loved when I was younger. I'm choosing an author that I loved when I was younger, and that is Hilary McKay. Now, I've talked about Hilary McKay on this vlog before. She's an author who won the Costa Children's Award this year for her book Skylark's War. And that book is about a group of children who were going through World War I, who were struggling to grow up as that horrifying war is going on around them. Hilary McKay is an author that I used to love when I was younger. I was obsessed with her series called The Exiles, about a big family who all argued and fought and were really naughty but adored each other. I was growing up as an only child. My brother and sister are way older than me, so we didn't live in the same house when I was a kid, and so I loved imagining that I could be part of a huge family like that. And so I was delighted to discover that Hilary has been writing more books, and that she has written a series about a girl called Binny and her big, naughty, messy family. Binny Bewitched is actually the third book in this series. The first book is Binny for short, and the second book is Binny Keeps a Secret. But they all follow this girl Binny and her family. And they have the same warmth and humour that I used to love in the Exiles. The story in Binny for short starts when her father dies and the family realises that they are now very poor now that he's dead, and they have to really struggle to work out what to do. Then they are left a tiny little cottage in a seaside town, I think in Cornwall, and so off they go to continue their life in a totally new town, in a totally new house. And these books are all about their exploits in that town and how they learn to live there and how they learn to love their new life. But the other reason why I've chosen these books, apart from the fact that they're very funny and very sweet and are just really enjoyable to read, is because they're actually kind of prequels but also sequels to the Skylark's War. So in the second book, Binny Keeps a Secret, Binny and her family go to a big house in the country. And while they're there, Binny discovers these museum exhibits that were created by the kids in the Skylark's War. And you can actually see a lot of the chapters in Binny Keeps the Secret are really similar to what is going to be in the Skylark's War. So you get to see the very beginnings of Rupert and Clary becoming people, and you can sort of see it being worked out in Hilary McKay's mind. I love that as an author. I think it's really cool to work out where characters have come from, where book ideas have come from. But I also love as a reader because I love the characters in Skylark's War, and I love the way that I was able to kind of go back to them, revisit their adventures and remember how lovely they were. So if you haven't read Skylark's War, read these books because they're great. If you have and you read these books, you'll find something extra special and really lovely in them. You'll find characters who you really care about in these pages as well. I had a long time, about 2 weeks, when I was just lying on the sofa after my tonsil surgery and I couldn't do anything, I couldn't focus on anything, but these books were some of the only things that I could bear to read, that I could actually really focus on and think about, because they're just so beautifully written, they're so warmly written, they're really easy to read, they're just really comforting and nice, and they were the perfect books for me at that time, but I think you'll love them whether or not you're currently recovering from something. They're perfect for anyone 8+ who is either part of a big family or would like to be part of a big family, who loves reading funny contemporary stories about kids who are a bit like them, who likes stories that are warm and adventurous but not too perilous. These are perfect. And now, just before I go, I'm going to do a little competition. This month, obviously, I have the lovely Case of the Missing Treasure out, and I have lots of copies of the Case of Missing Treasure. As you can see there, I got lots of author copies. So what I would like to do is give away one copy to a lucky viewer, and I'd also like to give away my copy of Everdark. I actually have 2 copies because I went and bought one and then I was sent one as well. So I'd like to give away both of these tiny, lovely little books. So all you have to do to win these 2 beautiful books is comment below and say why you are a worthy winner, why you deserve to win these books, and I will choose my favourite answer, and I will choose that person on the 14th of April to give you a lot of time to watch this and to get your answers in. And after that, I will choose you, I will ask you to email me, and then I will send these books to your address, and I will sign mine. I will not sign Abby's because I didn't write it, but if you meet her, you should get her to sign this for you. So I hope you've enjoyed that video. I hope you've had a really good March. I will be back in April with the cover and title reveal of book 8. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in April.